All right, gang. Welcome to an episode of How'd They Do That, which is a little show where I present you with a focus website and I show you how you can use the design options and the other features in focus to achieve a similar outcome on your website, okay? And the subject of today's episode is jackmurphylive.com. Jack Murphy is an author and a podcaster and sort of a social commentator, and he has a little website with some, with some blog posts. He's got a podcast he's incorporated on here. And like I said, he's an author, so he has a book that he wants to sell. His website's very simple, but it definitely looks different than a default focus website, which looks like this. Pretty vanilla. But Jack's site obviously kind of got a different, strong-looking header going on here. He's got some other stuff happening. He's got some imagery, got this thing down here with a little call to action and email opt-in form. So it's definitely different than just a vanilla focus layout. But I'm going to show you how he did this and how you can do this yourself. Okay, so we're going to start with this header area being black. We've got a couple menus here, which I'll talk about. We've got specifically a site title and a site tagline. Well, fortunately, we have a site title, and we have a site tagline, and right now we have one nav menu. This is on a default focus installation, mind you. And now let's dive into the design options and see, and we'll start turning this layout into Jack's layout. Okay, and one other thing. Notice how everything is center aligned here on Jack's site, and on my little focus example where I just installed focus, everything's left aligned. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to visit the content and display page. We are going to change to the focus content presentation mode. We will save it. I'll show you what that looks like. Boom, that centers everything. Okay, now we're going to start applying colors. And the first thing I'm going to do is pop over here to the design options. We're going to go to layout sections. But instead of applying this black color directly to the header, which is the most intuitive way to do this, and I can apply the same color to the nav unit as well, instead of doing that, I'm going to apply the black color to the body, okay? Because that is going to make the entire background of the page black. All right, I'll show you what this does. This makes everything black. Obviously, we don't want that. We just want the top and bottom, the header and then the footer to be black, and then the stuff in between where the content is presented, we want that to have a white background. But the reason we're going to do it this way is for something I call footer color continuity. And I'll show you an example of this. I've done this in some other videos, but I'll show you here. So footer color continuity is when you overscroll, such as on a mobile device or even on a regular browser now, the color that you see is an extension of the color of the footer. This is a properly done footer color continuity. But on a site where we don't have that, you would scroll up and this naked area that gets revealed down here would be white. It looks a little funky. It goes from this color and then there's like an abrupt break and then it turns white. That doesn't look good. So we want color continuity. So the way we're going to achieve that is we've applied the black background color to our body and we want to retain it on the header and the nav menu, but the content we want to be white. In this case, color 1 is a shorthand reference for white, so we can just choose that. And we'll leave the footer to inherit the body background color. And so we can see now you can see on the overscroll it stays black. So we've achieved our footer color continuity, but now we need to turn the main site title to white. We've got our tagline here appearing in the gray, that's fine. And the nav links on Jack's site are white, and so we'll need to make those white as well. We'll start with the site title. So under site elements in the focus design options, these site elements are anything that really appears on pretty much every template that appears on your website. So they're site-wide, and content elements are little things that appear within specific pieces of content. So for example, like a call-out within a post, or a block quote that appears in a post, or a list. You might use lists in your post, things like that. Those are content elements, but something like your site title, that is a site-wide element. So that's where we're going to change this. We're going to change this to the contrast color in this case is white. That's how focus is set up by default. So we'll just leverage that. Boom. And now we've got that in white. Jack's his site title here is also linked. We can do that easily. We are going to visit the content and display page to do that. We'll go down here to site title. We will say link to homepage. And now it's linked, and there is hover behavior that's exactly like Jack's hover behavior. All right, now, how about these guys? We want to turn our nav links to white. We're going to go to the design options. We'll go to, we're going to go to site elements because the navigation menu appears on every page. So the nav, under layout sections, you may have noticed there's a nav section and a secondary nav section. That's this whole thing. But the nav menu itself is just this set of links. So the nav section extends from edge to edge of the browser, but the navigation menu itself is only these links. The reason it's set up this way is because you might not want to use what I give you by default. You might want to stick something else in this section. It doesn't have to be a nav menu. It could be your own custom coded nav menu. It could be something completely different. It doesn't matter. You could stick something else in there and still use these layout section controls to dictate the background color and the border beneath it at a minimum, and that gives you some flexibility with the styling and stuff. Everything is a little bit more flexible this way. So anyway, we're going to control the links, the color of the links that appear in the nav menu by visiting site elements, nav menus. We will select a link text color. We're going to go with the contrast. Boom. And now our links there are white, similar to Jack's. Now they are not currently being underlined on mouse over, but we can go into that as well in just a little bit. We're not going to worry about that for now. The next thing we're going to tackle is Jack has a secondary menu here. So let's see how we can do that. Well, if we look at the layout sections, we see something for a secondary nav menu, so let's check that out. And it says here that the secondary nav menu is turned off by default, but you can enable it in the Global Layout Elements section of the Content Display Options. Okay, let's go there. Global Layout Elements, Focus Secondary Nav Menu. And we can see that we also have the option to deploy or only display this menu to logged in users on your website. Now, this is not going to be helpful for this example, but if you are running a membership website, or like a store like I run, you might have a secondary menu that you only want to show to people who are logged in with links to manage their account, edit their profile, log out, that type of thing. This is perfect for that type of application. For now, we're just going to enable this. We'll save it. And then we're going to, as soon as we save that, it pops up a new link down here in the bottom for our secondary nav menu. And we can choose a different menu to display there. The top nav menu is displaying on my site here, the focus menu. We'll pick a different one just for fun called GRT menu, and we'll save it. Okay, now we have a secondary nav menu, but on Jack's site, the secondary nav menu has a white background. On our site, it has a black background. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop into the design options and see if we can solve that problem. Go to layout sections, secondary nav. We see that it does not have a background color, which means it will inherit whatever's on the body. And right now the body is black. So we will need to make this white explicitly. And I'm also going to do this extra thing. I'm going to get rid of the border here. I'm going to get rid of the border on the header. Even though it's black and you can't see it, it is creating some space. And I'm going to get rid of the border below the nav. We're going to save that. Let's check it out. I'm going to hold Shift and click Refresh to view my changes by dumping the browser cache. Okay, I did that. Looked like our menu disappeared. It did not. It is still there, but unfortunately the text in this particular menu is white. Okay, so we don't see it. We need to solve that problem. All right, we'll dive back in here. We're going to look at site elements. We see that we have controls, but these apply to all nav menus. And we've already said that the link text color needs to be the high contrast, which is white. So that's a bummer. So the truth is, we cannot solve this particular issue. We cannot change the color of the secondary nav menu separate from the primary nav menu. So whatever setting is applied here is going to need to dictate one or the other, and then we have to do something called custom CSS to influence or change the color of the other, of the other menu. of the items in the other menu. I'll show you how to do this. It's sort of half dozen in one, or 6 in one, half dozen the other, about which approach you take here. But we're just going to go ahead and apply some custom styles to our secondary nav menu to turn those links black. Right now they are white. We want to make them black. So, all right, I've got my little target here. So we're going to go into the skin menu. We're going to click on Custom CSS. And we're going to do this. We're going to say the nav secondary that says, hey, target anything in the secondary nav menu section. Okay. And then we're going to say .menu A. And now this says target any links inside the menu that appears in the secondary nav. And we're going to say the color of those is CT1. In this case, CT1 is your text color 1, or primary text color, and that is black. Okay, in a default focus installation, that's going to be black if you haven't changed anything else. So we will save it. And now we will hold shift and click refresh. And boom, look at that. Our secondary menu now has black text. Our primary menu up in the header now has white text. Okay. Now, notice how on Jack's menus, the text underlines when you mouse over it. I like that. That's not how Focus works by default, because Focus basically doesn't make any decisions for you. It makes very minimum decisions for you, and you just layer on anything else you want using the design options if possible. That's going to cover a huge swath of your use cases. And for little things that you need to want to tweak, you can add your own custom CSS as needed. And so in this case, we're going to add a highlight, an underline behavior to menus items when we mouse over them. So all we need to do is this: say .menu A, and we can say text decoration underline, but we actually want this to be a hover. Okay, so there we go. It says whenever you hover over a link that's inside a menu, anywhere, let's underline that link. So let's see if that works. Boom, no problem. Okay, so we're even mimicking the slightly modified behavior of Jack's menu now. And so that's cool. Let's look at the next thing here. So our header looking similar. Now, well, okay, let's do this next. Jack's using a different font. Okay, I forget let's see what this is. Let's see what font we're working with here. This is Work Sans. Okay, so this is not included by default, I think. So Focus includes 130 something Google fonts by default, and I have hand curated these specific fonts. There's like 1,000 Google fonts now, but I've hand curated the 138 or so, or however many it is, that appear in Focus right now, because those are the only Google fonts that include regular weight, italic, and bold. So in font weight number terms, regular is 400, regular italic is 400i, and bold is 700 in terms of the weights. It's just the system naming convention given to font weights. So 400, 400i, and 700 faces. All of the fonts included in these drop-down selectors in Focus that have a G next to them, these are all Google fonts that have 400, 400i, and 700 faces. That is, in my opinion, the minimum necessary to render content. Okay, because like I use bolding, I use italics. Most people also use bold and italics. In Jack's case, the font Work that he is using does not have an italic face, but it does have a very strong bold face, and I really think bold highlighting is sort of the ultimate way to achieve scannability. And so I would prefer that if you choose a font that doesn't have an italic face, at least make sure it has a very high contrast bold, which this one does. And so therefore it's okay, but it's not as flexible as a font that has an italic face. But we will choose an alternative font just to kind of show you the flexibility of this and what you can do. We'll choose one called Montserrat, which is sort of similar to what Jack is using. So here we go. So there's Montserrat. So we've already changed sort of the look and feel of this site tremendously from a Focus default. And now let's keep it going. Let's look at another thing he's done. Another thing. I believe he has slightly tightened up the spacing in the nav menu. Let's find out if that's true. Why not? What are we looking for? Padding top and bottom. Okay, so he's got 11, 11 there. What do we have? 12 and 12. So we're using essentially the same thing. That's fine. Okay, so also the text included here, the headline, on his site is bold, on our site it is not. So what do we need to do to make our headlines bold? We're going to go into the design options. We're going to go down to content elements because headlines, stuff like that, headlines, subheadlines, this is stuff that appears within content exclusively. And we will change the font style to bold. And we'll do it for headlines, heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. And these are the primary headings you're going to be using inside your content. And I'll save that. Okay, now we got it bold, just like Jack has. That's cool. Okay, and it's important to note that this is Jack's homepage. This is just a static WordPress homepage, if you're familiar with that parlance. And the page we're working on here is a static homepage. There you go. In Jack's case, he's put an image in here with a link to his liminal order. It's a community, kind of like an online meeting place that he runs that has a forum. It has a chat component, some other stuff, some strategic stuff. So it's like a men's group, sort of. He has a link and an image to that, and then he has a list of podcasts, and he's just hand done this. So I'll go in and show you how we can make like a box like he did. So he's put them all inside this gray box. So you could do something like this. You could say, here is my big gray box, and I'm going to flip over to the visual editor because that's how most people like to do it. I prefer the text, but it's no big deal. We're going to highlight that. We are going to click Focus Content Styles, and we are going to make it a note because Jack is using a note. He has just changed his note color, but here we go. That's a note. And I believe we could have chosen, so we could undo that. And let's choose 2 things just to illustrate how this can be done over more than one paragraph. Okay, so it incorporated something else there too, no big deal. So we've now created a big note box like Jack has. We'll update it. And we will take a look at what our results are. Okay, so we've got our box. Now Jack turned his to gray, so let's turn ours to gray. Go back over here, we go into content elements. Alerts, notes, and boxes are things we can use inside our content. These are built into Focus to create little elements like this that are offset by a background color. You can go in here to content elements in the design options, go to callouts, and then we have notes, alerts, and boxes. Jack has changed his note color to a light gray. In this case, we already have a light gray color defined in our base styles. It's color 2. We're just going to use that just for the purposes of this example. You could have just as easily gone into custom color and supplied your own gray color, however you wanted to do that. But like I said, we don't want to do that. We're just going to use color 2 for now. And we're going to save it. Okay. So here's a big gray box. Now he put these specific things in here. He's got a way to link to his podcast, whatever plugin he's using. He's got a way to link to these things. That's how this output appears here. I don't have that plugin installed on my little demo here, but bottom line is you can see how to make a box to offset some special content that you want to highlight. No problem. We're really going places here. Now, he's also included a little headline. After this note, he's included a little subheadline, H2 or H3, with a picture of his book and a link to his Amazon page with his book. And then at the very bottom, he's got this curiously large box, which appears to be a note to advertise his liminal order forum. And, it's like a call for membership here with this little email form. So how can we make that? Well, this is not part of the content on this particular page explicitly. So it's not something he could just hit edit on this page and would be able to go in and edit that directly, at least not like that. What that is, what this content is here, is modular content. And this is built into Focus as well. So, like I said, Jack is an author. He's got a book that he needs to pitch every now and then. And he's got this liminal order, which he also wants to sell membership to this or pitch it and create awareness for it on as many pages of his website as possible. But he doesn't want to just pimp the book on every page. He doesn't want to just pimp liminal order on every page. He wants to be able to choose. He might want this liminal order thing on most pages, but he might want this Democrat to Deplorable, his book. He might want to pitch his book on some pages. So he doesn't want to just blanket apply this to every page. He wants to be able to choose. Maybe he wants this on all pages and this on some, for example. He needs that flexibility. Modular content is how he achieves this. So we're going to go in here to our WordPress admin. Underneath the thesis link here, we're going to see something called modular content. Let's check that out. Okay, so I've got a thing here. It's called sample product offer. Let's see if that's what we're going to use. Okay, we're going to use this. It's not exactly robust. It's just a little paragraph of text, but same effect. So we've got a sample product offer. So on our homepage now, which is currently displaying nothing underneath it, we're going to go in. We're going to scroll down beneath the content area. We're going to locate the modular content for thesis section. And right now it's selected to display a modular content fallback. Now on a separate page, you can specify a piece of modular content fallback that you want to appear at the bottom of, or wherever you want actually, on every post or page of your WordPress website. In this case, I don't have any fallbacks selected, so nothing appears there. However, I can choose to output a specific piece of modular content on this page. So instead of the fallback, I want to display my sample product offer. And we'll just hit update. That's it. I've selected it, and there we go. And now here we see the sample. This is the little product pitch, but this one has a yellow background. This was served with an alert box background. Jack's uses a note. Let's see if we can change ours into a note to be exactly parallel to what Jack has. So under the modular content for thesis, we've got a display style. And right now the default display style is selected. Let's choose note instead. And there it is. Okay, so a reminder, I could have put anything in here. I could have put a very sophisticated piece of content like Jack has, or just this goofy little promo here. But bottom line, it was easy for me to serve this critical piece of content here. For example, Jack would want this same pitch to appear on multiple pages. He wouldn't want to copy paste this into the freaking content of each page. Number one, that's a repetitive thing, so that's going to create waste in his database. To save the same thing over and over and over just creates a bunch of kilobyte waste. And it does actually have an effect on the website. It slows it down over time in aggregate over thousands and thousands of page views. But it's just inherently inefficient. So it's not the right way to do something like that. Content that you may want to display in multiple places on your website is a perfect fit for modular content. So this is a textbook use case for that. And so the incorporation of this little element here is sort of an instructive use of modular content. Okay? And so there it is. We have, in just a few minutes, and with me explaining everything along the way, I've been able to take a default focus installation and mimic this unique and, in my opinion, more visually exciting presentation style that Jack Murphy has done on his site. And Jack will attest to this. You can hit him up on Twitter or elsewhere, but he's not a designer. It's not like that. But he used the tools in Focus to create this, and he had the freedom and the flexibility to do that. And the best part is, when you make these changes with Focus, the responsiveness of your design is retained. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to work on mobile, whether or not it's going to degrade gracefully on different screen sizes. This thing is going to be perfect everywhere if you use the tools built into Focus to make your primary changes. And then, like I said, you can go in and sprinkle in little details with custom CSS to do things that you don't have the control and the design options to do, like force the menu links to underline on mouse over, or to change the color up here and make it, this text is white, this text is black. Those little types of adjustments. They're easy to make. They're easy for me to coach and to help you through. But bottom line, this is a really cool, I think this is a cool, instructive sort of demo. And I wanted to show you how you can use the focus design options to achieve some design outcomes that you might look at otherwise and say, I think that's pretty customized. No, usually that's not the case. And generally speaking, this stuff can be done very quickly and very accurately. Like I said, preserving responsive design, all that stuff can be done very quickly and accurately with focus. All right. If you guys have any questions about other focus websites you would like me to treat in this manner, please hit me up and drop one in the comments below. And, maybe I'll take a look at that for a future episode of How Did They Do That? All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.